Give you your own mic. You know here, Phil, I have to be very careful with people. Sometimes I don't give them a mic because they just talk. But I feel like I can trust you.
I hope so.
Yeah. Actually, you have that one. This is really this is quieter. So you're Phil. Where are you from, Phil?
Yes, so I was born in Sheffield, and I've pretty much lived here all my life. I'm 37 years old. Do you want me to go into any of the...
Yeah, do. Yeah, just...
Yeah, so in 2017, I was England's strongest man. So I've toured all around the world doing the strongman. So the strongman is the big Atlas stones. You've probably watched it at Christmas time, or at least seen the adverts and stuff. There's one guy there, definitely seen it. And that was me. I did UKs, traveled all around the world. And now I'm currently renovating Sheffield's largest independent gym. I'm not plugging myself, okay? I'm not plugging myself. I've literally just come there. We've had an open day, and unfortunately, I forgot to change my trainers. So you'll have to forgive my semi-neat, semi-messy
we like
appearance.
That. We like that. That's what we like here.
Good.
And so just tell us what your hope is. I know you may say this a little bit later, but the station, I think this sounds really exciting. What is it? What are you going to do there?
So
gym stuff.
Before I had the station, and when I was England's strongest man, I didn't know Jesus. But now I do know Jesus, thankfully. And the station is where I mix my passion of weight training with telling people about Jesus. So it's going to be my outreach. To hopefully reach lots and lots of people. Our passions, the first thing is we look after people's physical health, we look after people's mental health, because we know it's a big issue at the moment. We look after people's social health that we learned after COVID. But most importantly, after we've shown them the love of Jesus like that, we are then going to look after their spiritual health and hopefully guide them towards it. After just following the pattern that Jesus did, he met their needs and loved them and basically told them to follow him. And that's what we're hopefully going to do.
That sounds amazing, and we'll hear more about your heart, I guess, in a bit. Like I say, Phil's just been up with the youth, with Revo, and I know they did this would you rather thing, and I said to Phil, what was the, and he said the toughest one, which I don't understand, and is would you rather do chest or back? What does that mean?
Yeah, so this is quite hard to explain, but basically, the simplistic terms is, would you rather lie on your back and do a bench press, or pick up a weight and do a deadlift? So you do use different muscle groups. And I was like, that was the best question. I can't remember which guy did it, but that was a fantastic question, because that stumped me, and I thought I could think about this for hours, but I guess I should start talking about God and how he's worked in my life. So I gave a quick answer of, I would rather not bench press than deadlift. So if that means anything to anyone. Yes, thank you.
Now, I know I'm going to ask you a would you rather. I don't know whether they asked it this, and there's someone definitely in here who this answer will matter a lot to. Now, would you rather go and see United or Wednesday? And this could mean whether there might be whether these people stay in the evening service. I know.
Yeah, please don't leave when I give the answer. Put me on the right side of town. It's Sheffield Wednesday for me. There we go. It's the right answer.
For some. I'm from Hull. I support Hull City, so you know. So. Yeah, come on, Hull. Right, Phil, we're really looking forward to you speaking a bit later. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll hear you a bit later. Great, thank you. I'll hand over to you, Phil, but I know you said that you like to be asked questions, but I think what I'd love to know, and hopefully these guys will agree with me, is just your journey of faith. You know, what is your testimony really? Why are you doing this now? What's brought you to this place? And yeah, we'd love to hear that, if that's all right.
Thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome. So first, I want to clarify that this story is not about me. It's about what God's done in my life and how he's been there all the way through, whether I saw him or not. Because the first part of this story, I very much ignored him. Okay, but the second half of the story is where Jesus got involved. So I figured I'm sorry for some of the guys over here, because they'll have heard it already. So no spoilers for those guys. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. It seems like a good place to start for a story. So I was brought up in a Christian family. My parents had a faith, conservative faith, but they had a faith in Jesus. And I went to Sunday school. And as I grew up, I knew that, hey, you know what? This Christian stuff, it makes sense. It's moral. It teaches you good ethics. didn't really like Sunday school too much, but it kept my mother happy, so I'd go along anyway. So I grew up like that, but then I was a very, very nervous child. I was a very scared child. Okay, so I was scared of the dark. I had to leave the light on. If I had a nightmare, I had to go and sleep beside my mother. So I was a very timid little guy. And as I grew up, so I was born in 1985, so you can figure out my age there now. And I was brought up, I was watching the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Terminator, RoboCop. I'll get back to RoboCop in a second as well. But I was watching where all these giant muscle-bound guys, they would like face aliens and baddies and everything. So I thought, you know what, these guys aren't scared of anything because I'm sick to death of being scared. So I started to train. Much to my parents' delight, hearing the banging from my room. I was doing push-ups and sit-ups and star jumps and stuff like that from a young age, at about 12 years old. And the reason I started was that I was scared of being bullied. I wasn't necessarily bullied, but I was just scared of it. You hear the horror stories, especially in school. So I started training, and that's where I started to get strong. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought, I love this. Again, working hard and everything, achieving goals, seeing the body change and stuff. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So I'll go back to RoboCop, okay? So I watched RoboCop, and I took that a bit too seriously. Because I basically thought, I want to be like this guy. This guy gets the bad guys, and he protects the good guys. So I want to be a police officer. So that is what I did. At 21 years old, I was accepted into the police, and I had a very good friend who is very dear to me. Obviously, you can tell that I'm talking in past tense. As soon after I joined the police, well, actually, I'll tell you about the police first. So the police is all I ever wanted to do. And within 8 weeks of joining the police, I thought, I get to there and I will be happy. And you know what? It isn't anything like RoboCop. There's a lot more paperwork and there's a lot less thanks. So I basically thought, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Because I got in when I was like 21 years old. I was patting myself on the back. I was the youngest in my class. I was thinking, you've done well. You're an achiever in life. And I realized it wasn't what it's all cracked up to be. So I was a bit angry. And I was kind of very loosely holding on to my parents' faith. And it was completely their faith. I was just following their faith just to keep them happy. And it's just what I always done. And then a very dear friend to me, he was 22 years old. So I was about 23. I was a year older than him. I'd looked after him. He was like a little brother. He decided to take his life. And that broke me. So I basically said to God, if you exist, which I doubt you do anyway, you're horrible. You're like a kid with a magnifying glass on an ant farm. You can stop anything. Why have you done this? Right. I've tried it long enough your way. I'm going to do it my way. So then I became very driven. So I achieved the police, like, brilliant, pat yourself on the back. It wasn't the destination that I wanted. So then I said, well, other people were saying, well, you could be happy by doing the nice life, get a missus, get a house, get a dog. And so that's the route that I went down then. I got engaged while I was in the police. And I realized, you know what, this ain't ticking the boxes either. So back onto my search. Okay, and a good analogy that I found helped me with this is if you imagine that life is like walking in a desert. So life was hard. Life is very hard, and it can be dry and barren, and it's tough. The sun's beating down you. Life just is generally hard. What I was doing is I was seeing an oasis. I was seeing, oh, there's some shade over there, there's some water over there, and I saw that in the form of being a police officer. That would relieve me from the pain of life. So I went over to that watering hole, and it was salty water. It was not good. It did not quench my thirst. So then I asked other people, and people said, you just get happy when you settle down and you do the middle class sort of living. So I got engaged to a nurse, and I was a police officer, so we thought what was a decent income, and we bought a house in the suburbs in Norton Lees. And so I'd gone over to that oasis, and that oasis didn't satisfy my thirst either. And I was quite angry after my friend had died. I don't know who I was angry at, but I was just angry in general, and I was also angry that this water doesn't taste good. It doesn't quench my thirst. I'm still miserable. I'm still searching. So I ended up starting Strongman. So this was a long journey. So while I was in the police, I joined Strongman, and I saw the oasis of, hang about, Strongmen are really powerful, really big. Everyone wants to be their friend, not because they're nice guys, just because everyone's worried about you. Then they're always hoping, I hope this guy's a nice guy. Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't. So I started to go over to the oasis of the Strongman. And you know what? I got to the oasis, and the first ever competition I did at the lowest level, so you go in at entry levels, there's 4 different levels. There's novice, intermediate, opens, and then national. And that kind of gets you into international as well. So I went at the opens level, the novice level, and I won. So you can imagine how smug I was. I was like, I'm good at this. I'm good at this. I achieve everything I set myself out to do. What an achiever I am. And you know what? That water in that watering hole was sweet. It was sweet. I enjoyed it. It quenched the thirst. But you know what? About a month later, that water dried up. It was satisfying for a short time, but now, okay. Well, in that case, I got that sweet taste. So this must be the route. So I went over to the intermediates, and I went up to the higher level, and I won that competition. And that water was sweet, and it was nice. But then, again, very quickly, if not quicker than before, it dried up. So obviously, I'm onto something here. I'm onto something. It's all about achieving something that you really enjoy doing. So I went to the next level, and I spent a long time trying to get to that oasis, trying to get to that achievement. And at first, I had to eat humble pie because I was competing against guys. So we're on to the opens level, so just below the national levels. And I spent a long time trying to get to the top there. And this, because of my unhappiness, so because of my thirst that I was looking for, I was always a big guy. So everyone in the police, all my colleagues and everything, if there was a nasty crook who would like kick off or was renowned for kicking off, guess who they'd send? They'd send Guns. That was my nickname, Guns. Well, that made me feel good. That made me feel good. And as I lived up to the name because it made me popular. So I was so bothered about what other people thought of me. I thought, this is great. But that puts you into a bit of a sticky situation because I then, I was starting to have, things were starting to crumble around me. My life was starting to crumble. So I was being unfaithful to my fiancée at the time. I'm not proud of that. It's what I did at the time. And so we were splitting up. So we were in the process of splitting up. And then I got a meeting. You need to go to the chief inspector's office. So the chief inspector is someone you avert your gaze to in the police. When you were just a regular police officer like me, you'd stand back, hold the door open. It's like seeing the headmaster if you're in school. And she said to me, I need to speak to you about your complaints. This is when you get a bit defensive. Well, I achieved more than my colleagues because I used to hand in more work than my colleagues. So it's like, what? I should get a medal for this. But then she said, you have the most complaints in all of South Yorkshire Police for violence. 3,000 officers in South Yorkshire Police, and you're the worst. You're the most violent. So I want to give you another analogy. Okay, so what I was running through there is imagine yourself on a crystal clear lake, somewhere in Canada or somewhere really nice and peaceful. And you're on a motorboat, and you're cutting through that water. You're cutting through that water, and in front of you, it's a beautiful view. It's everything, the world's at your feet. It's absolutely beautiful. And then you turn around. You see the mess your wake is leaving. All the waves, the spoiled water, the bubbles. That was my life. That's when I realized, you know what? I'm a bad person. I am not a good person. And I had to accept that because it was thrown in my face. Everything I touched just turned to mess. Everything I did was all about me, and it was never my fault. So I ended up thinking, I got to the state of where I was actually rehearsing suicide. At this point, I was that down. And that out, I didn't care if I lived or died. But there's something that's held me on. Okay? And then I decided that I would quit the police. I split up with my fiance. So we sold the house, and I got some money out of that. And I was seeing a therapist at the time, and they said, well, where are you actually happy? You're never happy anywhere. And I said, I'm happy when I'm training. So the penny dropped. I opened my own gym. And that was Titanium Strength Gym. That's not this one. So then I quit the police, I opened my own gym, and then this is where things really start to spiral, because I didn't have the conformity of having to behave whilst being in the police. I thought, you know what? I'm going to carry on doing me. So I started to go to another oasis. And that other oasis was I used to boast in taking all class drugs. I was taking steroids. I was taking copious amounts of steroids. I was smoking lots and lots of cannabis. And I was taking lots of cocaine just to quench it, just to quench this thirst. And you know what? There's a season of that is fun. That is partying. So it's again, that water was sweet for a very short while, but it's very quickly you realize this is poisonous water. This isn't just unsweet now. This is actually really damaging me. And I opened a security firm, and I ended up in 2017, because I was partying hard, but I was training hard. And the joke was that I just basically, if I needed to get stronger, I just took more steroids. And in 2017, I became England's strongest man. So this is where my world opened up. So I got a sponsorship from a multi-millionaire. He sponsored me, and he enjoyed partying as well, so I got on with him like a house on fire. I opened a couple of security firms, so I started to get lots of income coming in. And I had a penthouse apartment, and it was really nice. Well, as far as Sheffield goes, is really nice. But it was a penthouse apartment. And I would have these parties and stuff, and I had a nice big truck. The ladies enjoyed my company, shall I say. So if I had a world standard, I'd gone to this watering hole, I've gone to this watering hole, I've gone to this watering hole, and they were running out even quicker. Every time I got to a watering hole, it was just dry and bitter, and it didn't even taste very good. So the only thing that kind of kept me going there is, because there was many times I stood on that balcony, and I looked over the edge and said, shall I jump? Thankfully I didn't, by the grace of God. But there was a chap, one of my good friends, he said to me, he said, you made it. You've made it now. I was inside, I've made it. This is what making it looks like. I hope not, because I don't feel like I've made it. But I had no path. I didn't have no which way to go. So I ended up in 2019, Britain's Strongest Man, 10,000 people. I'd been touring all around the world doing the strongman, getting in shows and going partying afterwards. I'd always look forward to the partying afterwards. But then one fateful night, I was a Britain's Strongest Man. I'd gone up to 24.5 stone. So bear in mind, now I'm 18.5 stone. So I was 6 stone heavier than I am now. And I was a lot leaner as well. Got a little bit of excess winter storage at the moment. But I did Britain's Strongest Man, which was a qualifier for World's Strongest Man. I didn't have a very good competition. And then, I don't know if you know the Atlas stones, which are giant round boulders. You pick them up and you put them on a plinth. I'd done number 1, fine. Number 2, fine. Number 3, fine. Number 4, I got it up here. I thought I'd put it on the plinth. My leg was wedged here, and it came crashing down on my leg. I heard an almighty crack. It was like a branch breaking off a tree. It shattered my leg in half. And basically, I then got obviously sent to hospital. I didn't win that, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. I got sent to hospital, and they said, you've got what's called compartment syndrome, which is a syndrome that basically says you can lose your leg because it's strangulation of the arteries because the swelling's so bad. What we're going to have to do is open your leg up and try and save your leg for the next 2 weeks. So I'd gone from the most physically able-bodied person that I knew, and one of the strongest guys around, to what is effectively a cripple. And then I've got, if you're squeamish now, turn away, but I've got a scar to remind me of that day. So you can see here, looks somewhere between a kebab and a salmon fillet, uncooked. So that's my reminder. And then, obviously, when you realize, oh, everything's falling apart just by one tiny mistake, this is very much, I was building my house on the sand. Those of you who know the Bible, I was building my house on the sand. And the storm came, a little storm, just bam, took everything away. My business was struggling. But luckily, I'd booked a holiday with some Christians because I'd been going every year. And they basically, for 120 quid, I got to go to Lanzarote. All I had to do was pay for flights. I was allowed to drink, and all I had to do, the deal was you come to a half-an-hour evening talk. So I'd been going for years. And I thought, these Christians, man, they're mugs. They're letting me go on holiday for 120 quid. It's like, bargain. And I'd just go and get drunk the whole time. And then basically, that year, I wasn't so confident because I had a big cage on my leg, and I decided at this point, I listened to the stories. I listened to what the preacher was saying, and he said, I said to him, I said, you know what? Go on then. I'll give this Jesus thing a go. And that was the best decision ever in my life. Okay, but this was the start of the second part of the journey. So I accepted Jesus into my life, and if you imagine, my analogy is that you're driving a car, you're driving your car of your life, and I was driving it on my own, taking journeys, going to destinations, going different places before, without Jesus. And then when I accepted Jesus in my car, I opened up the passenger seat and said, you sit there, keep quiet a lot, and I'm going to carry on driving, but I will listen to your advice sometimes. Okay, so I got to the point of, I got confused because I became a Christian and I was still hooked on the drugs. And I was still struggling with sex before marriage. And I was struggling with absolutely anything. And I didn't understand why. And then, a couple of years later, in lockdown, very sadly, another friend of mine, he decided to kill himself. So that is when I said to God, God, I don't want to do life anymore. I'm going to give it over to you. I've got nothing to do. I've got nothing left. I'm meant to be a Christian. I called myself a Christian. And I was loosely going, I was just trying to hang on going to church. And I said, God, this is effectively where I crashed that car of my life. I said, God, you drive. So I got out the passenger seat, out the driver's seat, and got into the passenger seat, and I let Jesus drive the car. And that is when life really, really began. So obviously, I still try and take the wheel every so often, but God basically, he's then said, you're living your life for you. You're living your life for you. You're putting you first. And this is where you've got it all wrong. So obviously, when Jesus is driving the car, he's driving a lot faster, a lot quicker. I can't keep up. It's absolutely terrifying. Life is absolutely terrifying with Jesus at the wheel, but it is the most exciting ride you'll ever get because he's far faster. He knows which direction to go in if you let him drive the car. And he made me realize, love the Lord your God with all your heart, body, soul, and mind. Okay? And love your neighbor as yourself. So this is where I was like, I'm going to try it this way. God, I'm going to put you first. I'm going to put everyone else first. And my goodness, that is the best thing you can ever do in your life. Because I don't know, if you guys don't know Jesus, then it's a matter of how many watering holes are you going to go to that do not quench the thirst? You go to another relationship. You even get children. And these things are blessings, but they're not quite enough, are they? And I guarantee if you're sat here and you don't know Jesus, you will guarantee that will not be enough. But then if we get Christians, it's like, are you driving the car? Or is Jesus driving the car? Yes, you're saved. Yes, you're saved. You're alive.
You're here with a purpose. You are completely unique in who you are. You can offer the world completely unique to anything else that anyone else can offer it. Are you living that? Are you allowing God to take that out of you? Because obviously with me, letting Jesus drive my car is not all about me being a strong man and being a tough guy and me being hard. It's about putting other people first. So God's allowed me to open up the largest independent gym in Sheffield because I've said, God, this is yours. It's my passion. Weightlifting is my passion, but it's your building. This is your business. This is your life. This is your car that you're driving. So I would say if you're a Christian here as well, that if you think, you know what, living as a Christian, it's all right. I kind of just do it on tick over. There's a few weird guys that put their hands up and stuff like that in the air and, oh, they must just be super holy and that sort of stuff. And if you're not satisfied in your life with Jesus, then let go of the steering wheel. You let him drive the car. I don't know what that looks like in your situation. Okay, everyone's was different. It took someone to kill themselves for me to draw away from God. And it took someone to kill themselves to bring me back to God. So whatever your situation is, it's letting God drive the car. But then why would you let someone, if you come to church just out of tick over and you read the Bible occasionally or you're praying a little bit, why would you trust someone to drive your car if you didn't know them? So get to know him. And we're told you can only get to know him. You can get to know him numerous ways, Get to know him through reading the Bible, spending time with him. All he wants is your time and attention. You give him your time and attention, he'll do the rest. Okay? Because we know in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you are good, to prosper you and not to harm you, plans of hope and a future. There you go. Okay. And so he's got good plans for you. So why are you not trusting him? It's because you're not getting to know him enough. The more you get to know, the more you step out for Jesus, the more you spend time with Jesus, the more likely you are to trust him. And you know that those plans are good. And then we're always on the other side of it, is if something goes wrong, Romans 8:28, okay, for in all things, for the good of those who love me and for my will. Okay, so he's basically saying anything that happens that's bad, I can turn it for your good. If you love me and you seek me. So we've got good plans. We've got, if it goes wrong, I'm going to sort it out anyway. But we have a role to play. So our role is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Submit to him in all your ways and he'll make your path straight. That's our bit. That's all our bit. But you have to trust him. Trust him. We don't trust in what we can see. We trust in a God who makes these promises. And relationships are built, and this is a principle for everything. Relationships are built by spending time with people and having experiences with people. So the more time and the more experiences with people you have, or the more time and the more experiences you have with God, the more you're going to get to know him. And the more you're going to trust him to drive the car of your life, to take the wheel and ask him. We all do it. I do it. I fail lots of times because I try and take the steering wheel back off him while I'm in the passenger seat. But he soon taps my hand and says, no, I've got this, don't worry. But if you want to live life to the max, let Jesus drive your car. And if you don't know Jesus, at least let him into your car and see the differences that journey starts to make in your life. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. I'd love, we've got a few minutes, and it may be that some people have questions. You know, if you've been thinking as Phil's been talking, I'm going to ask one, then I will come to you. But just be thinking about questions that you might want to ask. I was just interested in, and also Revo lot. If you heard him say something that hasn't at Revo that you thought was really good and he hasn't said here, tell me. Yeah. You think, he should have said that. You said that you were going to a Christian holiday how come? Why were you doing that? Because I'm quite interested in people who are faithful and invite you along to stuff, and then that didn't bear fruit for quite a while.
Yeah, I had a friend who just had a soft spot for me. I had numerous Christian friends, and I know that I had my parents praying for me, so they put them in my life. And the thing is, I'd been going for years, and what I would do is I'd get drunk and have fights with people in the hotel resort, and I would try and sleep with the barmaid. I was a nightmare, absolute nightmare, and they kept inviting me back. So it was kind of, if you're in a place where you're inviting people, your friends aren't Christians, keep going, because they may not see any love anywhere else. So the only way they get to see your love, Jesus' love, is through you. You're a shining light for God. If you want him to use you, he'll use you. And I'm so thankful to the guys who put up with me, and obviously for Jesus who put them in my life. But my advice to you is, if you have got some friends that you think, I'm never going to get anywhere with this, okay, they're just completely rock solid, they rock against it, you don't know what's around the corner, and you don't know what Jesus has in store for them. So just keep being a faithful, obedient servant and showing them the light that is Jesus through your life.
I love that. And I can't count how many times when I talk to people who have come to faith in Jesus, how many times they've name-checked a praying person, often a praying grandparent for some reason. Praying grandparents, they're gold. But praying parents, and the power of prayer, and it really challenges me that, do I pray? Do I lift up to God those people I want to see come to know Jesus? Right, I've got loads of questions, but it's a bit unfair for me to hog it all. So, Ian, you were wanting to ask something.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, is the gym open now? And are you able to talk about what's happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the gym is open at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning for the first day. Well, this is why my voice is, I don't usually sound this husky. My voice is rather croaky because I've spoken to about 200 to 300 people today, giving them tours around. So we had an open day today, and hence I forgot to change my trainers because I was kind of semi-doing work, but semi-kind of entertaining people. So it's open tomorrow. And my passion, my heart is for those 4 things we look after. We're here with that gym is going to, first of all, like I said, look after physical health, okay? To be physically healthy is a good thing. It's on some people's hearts, some others. It's to look after their mental health. Suicides have been a big part of my life that I don't know why God allowed them to die. But all I know is that God loves us so much that I can trust him that he uses it for the good, which is very hard to say. And the third thing is the social health. But the most importantly, after we've shown that love, of meeting people's needs in today's society, it's their spiritual health. Because let's face it, in 70 years' time, no one here is going to be, maybe a few of you guys still be here, but no one's going to be here. So it's the spiritual that lives on. But to reach out to people, we have to show love. We're not just going to shout at them and say, Jesus loves you. If you don't love him back, you're going to go to hell. Okay, maybe that will work in certain situations, but the vast majority of people will be turned away from that. So we're going to do what Jesus did, and with my passion of doing the gym stuff, we're going to show Jesus' love to as many people as possible in that gym. Sorry, it's been. And there's a community room, so it's all high tech. It's super high tech. I'd never be able to run a gym like this myself. I've got a million miracles I could tell you about this project, because it's completely God's gym, so it's for His glory. And there's a community room, and it's basically like a really fancy classroom. And what we're going to be doing is, I want to do a Christians Union. I want to get people in there praying for people in the gym, and the customers that I have, because there's quite a few Christians who come along. It's been an absolute blessing to get alongside people. And once we set up the Christian Union there, and there's all guys from all different churches. It's fantastic just meeting other brothers and sisters. It's fantastic meeting you guys tonight. And then we're going to run, I think at the moment it's going to be an alpha course, because I've just took a couple of my laborers to the alpha course when we were doing the build, and it was fantastic. I was like, this is a great tool, but that is the start of it. And when I had this project in mind, my project was so low. in comparison to how God's turned it out. So I know this is a starting point, and this is me just stepping out in faith and saying, God, I trust you. I'm going to walk for you. Let's see where this goes. And it can guarantee it's going to be more than just a Christians meeting together and an Alpha course. I know this because that is how my Father works. And he will, as long as we're willing to, in every walk of your life, if you give it over to him, he will make it far surpass what you ever could imagine.
Fab. Jane, you had a question. This is the only way I get my steps in if we do questions.
I don't really know what my question is other than, well, thank you for sharing your story. Thank the rawness of it, the reality of it. But like when you had that accident, I mean, yes, you'd lost your friend before, but I mean, your world must have fallen apart. And I suppose I'm just thinking, you know, wonderful that you asked Jesus to be the passenger. Wonderful that you gave him that opportunity that for you to get to know him more. But how did he, in those probably what were the darkest moments of your life when you lost the very thing that you'd found that kept you going, how did he show you that he really cared, that he was interested, and give you strength to keep going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know it all comes down to people praying for people. And I know my parents were praying for me, and all these other Christians were praying for me. So the thing that kept me going, I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't tell you. So I know it's down to God. I'm just so thankful that they were praying. And the thing is, this is more about God. It's like, how can a day that you nearly lose your leg, you're scarred for life, you lose reputation, you nearly lose your businesses, and only with God can that be, I genuinely, hand on heart, say that was the best day of my life. Because my life was headed for a disaster. I may not even be here now. But I'm here now, living life to the full, because my life turned around in that moment, and that is a perfect example of how you may think you're down and out. You may think things can't get better. I tell you what, with God, anything can happen. So you trust in him, and he will really change the worst situation ever. But yeah, hope that answers some of it.
Jim.
Bill, how long have you been running this gym?
So we got the keys in February last year, and I've been working on it for 11 months. And so it's literally open day tomorrow.
Oh, of course, you just said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose you've got your hands full, but you know, it'd be. I mean, in a lot of the different neighbourhoods, in our neighbourhood, there's a lot of kids who go to the local boxing gym and stuff like that. And it was something like what you're doing, or a similar thing, in different neighbourhoods, you know, and you know, it's not in your plans to branch out because you're just setting up there. But if you know, come in contact with anybody who's got a passion for that, who's, you know, same as yourself, a Christian maybe in there, but I think it would be fantastic to have opportunities like that in other parts of the city. Yeah. But great what you're doing, it's fantastic.
Thank you very much. And just to touch on that, you triggered me a little bit there. So we had a marketing team come in, and they said, right, we're going to do your marketing. And I said, right, okay, brilliant. And they said, I need to know your target audience. And I said to them, I looked them straight in the face, and I said, anyone who wants to achieve better. And they kind of looked at me blankly. And they said, well, sorry, Phil, it doesn't really work like that. We need to know your target age, your gender. And I said, I don't care. I don't care. And they said, well, I don't think we can work with that. And I said, well, I don't think I can work with you. So we didn't. So we've done it through just praying. Me and my business partner, we're both Christians. And we just pray before we do it. And you know what we've got? We've got kids' classes from 0 years old, and the eldest person that signed up to the gym is 90. So we are doing it. So they said what can't be done, with God, we're doing it.
It's fab. I like the way that, Jim, you're already getting him to do franchises and multiply out. Jim's your man. Vicky. Oh, sorry, I'm coming to you in a minute.
Hi. I have two questions, sorry. First one is, you just said your business partner is a Christian, which is awesome. In terms of like your other staff, where is their faith at, and like how do they feel about like your vision of like the 4 things, like it's not just about physical health? And then the second question, it's just a simple one, is like, as a church and as individuals, how can we support what you're doing?
So the first one's awesome. I like that question. So at the moment, it is just me and my business partner, and there's a third business partner, Christians. But my business partner and I, we meet up every morning and we pray. And I always tell the staff that we're praying for them. The one girl, our sales manager, and she's membership manager. I could ask you to pray for her. Her name's Rebecca. And she's so interested. All the conversations, I'm telling her about Jesus. And we obviously say all the time, we pray for her. And then I was having a wobble. And she said to me, she said, "Come on, Phil, where's your Godfidence?" So it's soaking in. She's got a Bible. I pray for her every single day. And I pray for the staff. I pray for the staff that they would come to know him, because that is the most important thing. And secondly, that I can show Jesus' love and kindness to them. So we try and be as fair as possible. And the second question, if you're a gym person and you're a Christian, come down and see what happens when God's family come together and overwhelm the place with love and kindness. And if you're not a gym person, pray. Pray that souls will be saved. Pray that Christians in the gym will be willing to be used, and just be on fire for God. And for protection as well. I know the Lord will always protect us, but pray for extra protection. You can never have too much of that. And I guess for us as leaders, to keep our minds focused on Jesus, not look at what's around us, not look at our own greed or anything like that, just to completely focus on Jesus at all times. Thank you.
Fab, I'd love us to pray for you at the end, in kind of part of that question that Vicky asked. Was it you, Jacob? Who was it? Jacob.
Just a quick one. Have you ever lost an arm wrestle?
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, doesn't it?
In my strongman days, no. I did a lot of arm wrestling. So, no, I was quite good at the arm wrestles. Now, I've not trained for like nearly a year. I can't wait to get back to it. So, if you want to challenge me to an arm wrestle, give me at least 4 weeks. Then I get time to train, okay? Because my gym's open now.
He says, "You know where I'll be." That's fighting talk.
Heard it there. You've heard it there, guys. I've been challenged.
Brett, we'll have maybe one more after this, and then we'll pray.
Hiya. Thank you so much for your testimony. That's really encouraging and inspiring. I just had a question. I might have missed it, but what does station mean? Like, where'd the name come from?
So the station is actually, it's Old Mansfield Road Fire Station. And here's an exciting story as well, because it's been derelict. So it's a fire station near Manor-Top. It's on Mansfield Road, so intake area. You've probably driven, if you're from Sheffield, you'll have driven past it. It's the one with a big tower, which we're turning into Yorkshire's tallest climbing wall over the next year. But I'll deal with that later. But funny thing is, it'd been derelict for 8 years. And the state we got it in, it was ransacked. And you know what I took great satisfaction in? Because I've decided, I took it on myself because I wanted to make sure it's dedicated to the Lord. So I've painted every single brick. So me and a few others, but me majority. I was painting every brick, and I had to remind myself a lot of the time, Lord, I'm doing this for you, because there was 30,000 bricks to paint, and that was by hand. But what I took great satisfaction in is when we first got it, there was one of the Devil Star things, and 666 all over the place. And it was dead. It was derelict. And now we've painted over it, and we've given it to Jesus. It's so light, and hopefully, I know Jesus is going to shine through that. So it shows the devil, death, nothing, emptiness. With Jesus, it's full of light, life, and absolutely everything.
With time for one more, if anyone would like. One more.
Can I just ask you, like, are you married now? I mean, just thinking about women is a difficult thing, I think, for a lot of guys, just sort of Christian attitude to sex and such like.
Yeah, so, there is the struggles, and I'm not saying that I would never fall to sin. Of course I do. Absolutely everyone else. And I was explaining to these guys, so sorry you've heard this analogy, is when we fall over, I have been celibate for like 18 months now, so I am single for the Lord, and I'm very happy in where I'm at right now. I'm completely confident. But when we do fall, if you imagine yourself as a 2-year-old, okay, we were all there once. Some, it was longer ago than others, so we can't remember it, but a father, when the little toddler falls over, does the father shout at it and say, "Get back up, this is the last time I pick you back up"? Or does the baby cry out to the father and you get picked up and he says, "Go again"? You picked up, go again. There is a countless times that you can fail, and you're never failing as long as you're walking towards Jesus. So don't ever be put down or put off, because when you fail, God is ready to pick you up. All you have to do is swallow your pride and say, "God, pick me up. I need it." No matter what age we are, we all fall down, but it doesn't keep us down. And that's the important thing, especially to see failure as a road of progression. Don't see it as a defeat. Don't stay down and cry. Just say, "God, I need to get back up. I need to get back on my feet." And you watch what he does.
Oh, that's great. I would love to keep going. I also am aware of time.